about quite an interesting topic actually related to history. You like history? Like history? Yeah, I like history. Is it stories? But there is only one difference. These are the stories that actually happened. They are not marvels. They are actual stories, and you are part of it, and you are part of these stories as well. And this is the thing that you need to start your journey in history, especially the history of Palestine. That is the thing that you need to take it into consideration once you start speaking about this issue. I have only one question here. Is there anybody here who does not speak a single word in Arabic? A single word in Arabic. How many? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Is there anybody here from Lebanon? From Lebanon? Lebanese? What is the meaning of this? Are you from Lebanon? Are you Lebanese? Partially. So, yeah, we have a Lebanese guy. So you speak Lebanese? Yeah, okay, that's fine. Well, I'm so happy that there is somebody from Lebanon who can understand the Lebanese accent, because I'm going to use the Lebanese accent. I'm not good in the Lebanese accent, but I'm going to use it actually in historical text. What the heck does a Lebanese accent do with Palestine and the history of Palestine? I know, you might ask yourself this question. And this is where I'm going to start, actually, my journey today. Within half an hour, I'm going to speak about this issue, and then, if you have any questions, inshallah, we'll be having a session of, a few minutes, inshallah, for questions and answers, inshallah. Well, usually, whenever you hear the Zionist story or historical text about the history of Palestine, or the history of the Jewish people, actually, the Zionist people today, not the Jewish people, the Zionist people as well, or the Zionist ideology in Palestine, they start usually speaking about 3,000 years. They usually say that Israel was there since 3,000 years, since the time of David and since the time of Solomon. Generally, they don't believe that David and Solomon were actually prophets, and that's fine. That's not the thing. That is something different. Now, the case is, whenever you have a historical debate with regarding to the ancient history of Palestine, you have actually a big problem with regarding to the Arab and in particular the Arab or the Palestinian version of the history, because generally the history starts according to the Zionist understanding 3,000 years ago. From 3,000 years ago, you see the connection between the Jewish people on that land and Palestine, Jerusalem, Holy Land, etc., etc., etc. And that is the problem that we have today with regard to this historical text. Why? Because the historical debate actually cuts off about 2,000 years of the Palestinian story. So if I have a problem actually with regard to the history of the United States, in my connection to the United States, for example, I say, well, my history in the United States starts since 2015. Does that mean that before 2015, there was nothing in the United States? Actually, if I concentrate always on 2015, 2015, 2015, and I have a big influence on the way how I deal with this issue in the media and in the academic world, and I speak all the time about America starting with Abdallah since 2015, for example. And that's why 2015, by the way, it's a secret. That was the first time I've been to the United States. Don't tell anybody. Before that, there was no United States. Why? Because I was not here. Can you imagine this? Is this understandable? Is this acceptable? Is this logic acceptable? That is exactly the logic of the Zionists. Now, the story of Palestine starts according to this narration, according to this historical narration, 3,000 years ago, when David entered the city of Jerusalem and ruled it according to the understanding of that virgin of the history of that area. Before that, there is nothing. Is there anybody here who's been to Jerusalem before? Wow, that's good. That's really good. Okay, when you went to Jerusalem, has anybody here been to the museum of the Citadel of David? What the heck? Oh, come on. What? Oh, guys, you should go there. Why? Because it gives you actually what I'm talking about. Now remember that. Visit to that museum. Roughly, you were young. And that means you're 70 years old now? Okay, 55? 21 plus 30. Now, okay, 21, that's fine. So you are young, wallahi you are young. I'm 40. Look at that, I'm 40. Okay, I'm just joking with you. Yeah, so you've been there. Now, when you go there, I know that a lot of people now are going to be there next time. When you go there, actually, that museum is called the Museum of the Citadel of David, the Museum of the History of Israel, or the history of Jerusalem, not Israel, sorry. Now, when you go there, you will find that it is actually divided into rooms. Each room represents an era in history, a period of history. Now, when you enter the citadel, you find yourself in a courtyard. Then, you start your journey by the first room. Before entering the first room, at the entrance of that room, there is a small wall, an old wall, that has got just a small picture of like a small statue. It speaks about the Canaanites being here. It's a wall, not even a room. Suddenly you enter to the first room, which is called the room of the era of the first temple. A whole room designated to that area. And then the next room is the era of the second temple. Then the Roman and etc. Now note something, that the era of the first temple actually, well, in history, it started and ended within like 400 years. From the beginning, according to the Zionist understanding actually. According to the understanding of that story, or that account, the story of that temple started with Solomon, and it ended when the Babylonians entered with Nebuchadnezzar, and that's it. He burned it and he destroyed the whole temple, and that's it. That's the period. How long was between both of them? It was like 400 years, according to that understanding. Okay, now what about that small wall, which gives you just a small word, says the Canaanites were here, and this is one of the statues of the Canaanites. Actually, that represents, can you imagine, 2,000 years of history. The small, just entrance, represents, in fact, historical facts, about 2,000 years of the history of Jerusalem. 2,000 years is just wiped and summarized in a small statue, saying that some people called the Canaanites were here. And that gives an illusion to the person who enters, showing that those people were nothing actually, they were just a part of many people who passed through history. But the real history starts from 3,000 years, not before that. However, it was 2,000 years before that history starts. 2,000 years meaning, if we are going to start the history of Jerusalem from today, and saying to wipe all the history before us, that history will cover the time between Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, Jesus, all the way to our time. Can you imagine? And when I said 2015, the history of the United States start, it was laughable. It was illogical. Why? Because people know that the history of the United States actually dates back all the way to the founding fathers, and even before that, when the first immigrants came, and even before that, when the when the Native Americans actually started their civilization here. But when I come and wipe all these years and I say it starts from my time, it starts from my entrance to this country, it's illogical. So, you need always, in any debate, to start the story from the beginning. And show that this story actually does not relate only to 3,000 years. The history of Jerusalem dates back all the way, and even Palestine, all the way to 6,000, 5,000 years old, or 500 years from our time. Which means that there are 2,000 years where the people actually lived in that country, lived in this area, and survived in this area. So, somebody might come and say, well, we don't have anything that is related to that area. No architectural findings, for example. And that is wrong, by the way, guys. That is wrong. There is something today called a small town. It was a town, now it's a neighborhood. In Jerusalem called Silwan. We know Silwan. Does anybody not know Silwan? You're from Silwan. There's one here who knows Silwan, there is another one who does not know Silwan, so you have to fight this guy. Or you have to fight them, not me. You have to fight them because they don't know Silwan. Silwan is actually the small village that was directly towards the south of Al-Aqsa Mosque. Outside Al-Aqsa Mosque from the south, it starts and ends there. And Silwan was actually the place where the first city of Jerusalem was established. For the first time ever. Why? Because that is the only place where there is a spring of water. But other than that, there is no springs of water in Jerusalem except for the Ain Silwan, the spring of Silwan. And this is why the first people who came, the Canaanites, came to Jerusalem and they built their city in Silwan. And when you go to Silwan today, you find the excavations of the Israelis in Silwan who actually uncovered the Canaanite city of Jerusalem. And they found walls of the city that date back to 4,500 years. That means that they date back 1,500 years before the time of David, according to the Israeli narration. So you see how it is done. Now, what did they do in order to act or react to this fact that the Israeli archaeologists actually found themselves? They simply say that this actually is an old wall that was built 4,500 years old, 4,500 years ago. That's the British way of saying, of saying the numbers. Or else you could say 4,500 years ago. So, but the whole name of the old city of Silwan, or the old city of Jerusalem, at that time, the Israelis today call it the city of David. What does it mean? If you go and find a city, for example, named the city of Lincoln, you assume at the beginning that the first one who built it was Lincoln. But suddenly you found that it was not actually built by Lincoln. It was built by somebody else, but Lincoln came and, for example, lived in this country, or lived in this city, and this is why it was called the city of Lincoln. But the first impact of the word city of Lincoln on your mind, as a visitor, as a foreigner, as a traveler who doesn't have anything to do with this country, would be that you might think, or you would think, that it was built by Lincoln. That is exactly the same case with Jerusalem. When you go to Silwan, this Canaanite city that dates back to 15 to 2000 years before David, and you find a big word saying City of David, Ain David, Medina to Dawood in 3 languages, you might assume from the first instance that it was built by David, not by the Canaanites. So you see? And that is the way how the Israelis actually play with words and play with the names. And that is something very interesting and very important for you to learn, and very important for you to understand. This is why I say all the time that the war of concepts actually is one of the main wars that is being done within Jerusalem, actually, and within Palestine, the issue of concepts and terminologies. It's very important. So we don't usually use the word City of David. It is actually the ancient Canaanite city. So, okay, now comes in a debate. Just giving you some answers so that you might cheat, if I cheat, between brackets. So somebody might come and say, well, okay, well, we said in the, for example, like an Israeli guy can come and say, well, we say that it was the city of David, but we wrote that it was built by the Canaanites. So what is the problem? So what is actually your relationship with the Canaanites? The Canaanites were people who lived in this country for some time, and then they actually disappeared. And that is something very interesting. And they have nothing to do with the Arabs. They have nothing to do with the Arab Palestinians of today. And that is very dangerous, guys. Because the fact was that, or is that, the Canaanites were Arabs. Now, people in the Arab world, a lot of archaeologists and a lot of historians say this. They say that the Canaanites were Arabs. So the Israelis come usually and say, well, you don't have anything to, you have any relationship between the Arabs and the Canaanites? We know today that the Arabs are the people who speak Arabic, right? The Canaanites never spoke Arabic. They spoke ancient language, where ancient Hebrew and ancient Arabic, and later on, Arabic was actually developed. Later on. And that is actually another wrong issue. Because the language of those people at that time, you might be surprised to know that it was Arabic. We know, for example, that in Lebanon today, they said, now we come to your half country, if I could say, because you are half Lebanese, he said. That depends where you're from in Lebanon. That means you're, which half? Shweifat. So you are half Lebanon. Like, okay, that's fine. For example, in Lebanon, did you live in Lebanon?
Not Lebanon.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. And for the people of Lebanon, usually they teach them in schools that the Lebanese originally were called the Phoenicians, Al-Finiqiyun in Arabic, right? And sometimes in Arab books as well, we read that the Canaanites were Arabs. Okay, but where were the Canaanites? They were in some parts of Palestine, and there were some other people called the Jebusites or Al-Yabusiyun in Jerusalem, and there were other people called the Moabites, Al-Mu'abiyun in Karak, in Madaba in Jordan, and there were some other people called the Ammonites, Al-Ammuniyun in Amman in Jordan, and there were other people who called the Hittites in Syria, and there were other people who called this and that and so all around that area. So the people of Canaan are actually some people of Palestine, and that is wrong as well. All the people of the Levant at that time, Asham, historical Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Palestine, all of these people at that time were called the Canaanites. So the Phoenicians were Canaanites. The Moabites were Canaanites. The Ammonites were Canaanites. The Jebusites were Canaanites. All of them were Canaanites. In Arabic, Al-Kan'aniyun. It's the same as at the time of the Prophet ﷺ when you say Quraysh. Quraysh was a tribe. Within that tribe, there were many smaller tribes that are related all in their ancestors, and within one tribe called Quraysh. From Quraysh there were Bani Hashim, where the Prophet Muhammad descended from. In Quraysh there were Banu Makhzum, Banu Adi, Banu Zuhra, Banu Kada, Banu Kada, Banu Kada, so and so. But all of them were called Quraysh. And Quraysh, with the people of Taif at that time, were all called Kinana. All of them. So that was the same issue with Palestine. All the people of the Levant, Asham, were called at that time the Canaanites. Amongst them, there were the Phoenicians, there were the Ammonites, there were all of them, actually, those people all together in one nation, but with different tribes. So these were names of tribes, actually. But all of their language at that time was actually Arabic. And all of their tongue was actually Arabic. How could you say that whenever I cannot read texts in those languages? I'm going to read you now a text that was found in Lebanon. An ancient text that is exactly 4,500 years old. I'm going to learn it, to read it in Arabic, also in Phoenician, if I could say, if it can be called Phoenician. And we'll see if you understand it or not. It says, sorry for the people who do not speak Arabic. I know, it's a little bit hard. It says, Nihna ishi, sorry. It says, Nihna ishi banana beit لأشمون القدوش بعين يدلول. Did you understand anything?
You built a house?
What the heck? I know. What? I see the faces. Huh? Where is the Arabic in this issue? I'm going to read. نحن إشي بنينا بيت لأشمون القدوش بعين يدلول. Did you understand it? Come on.
You built a house.
We built a house. And something. Okay, you know what? I'm going to read it again in Phoenician, then I'm going to read it again in the Lebanese accent of today. In Phoenician. Do you understand Lebanese accent? Whoever speaks Arabic? Okay, that's fine. Oof. Okay. In Phoenician it says, نحن إشي بنينا بيت لأشمون القدوش بعين يدلول. In Lebanese, نحن يلي بنينا بيت لأشمون القدوس بعين يدلول. Now you understand it? So, what does that mean? Does that mean that the Lebanese accent was dating back all the way to 4,500 years old? So the answer is yes. Actually, the accents in the area of Asham do not date back to the end of the Ottoman period as some people tell. The accents of Asham date back all the time to the Canaanites. So even at that time, whenever you read for the Canaanites or the Phoenicians who were part of the Canaanites, you can understand it on the Lebanese of today. And this is why you should know, if you're a Palestinian, for example, that some of the words in the Canaanite inscriptions can be read in the Palestinian accent of today. The word chursi, for example. What the heck? Chursi? Chursi? You know what chursi means?
Kursi.
Kursi. Yeah, but in the, لهجة الفلاحية, the فلاحي accent, they say chursi. Yeah. كانوا كلنا طلع من اسم chursi. Okay? You know that? It's the same. Actually, it was not new. It was not new. It was the way how it was written and spoken 5,000 years ago. So what does it mean? It means that the Arab Canaanites never disappeared. Because whenever you read any book, and I finish with this, whenever you read any book of history, of ancient history, in Palestine, about Palestine, you start reading, unfortunately some of them were written even by Arabs and Muslims as well. They speak about the beginning. They say, at the beginning, it was the Canaanites. And the Canaanites were Arabs, okay. Suddenly, they speak about Dawood ﷺ when he entered the Holy Land, and that's it. Where the heck are the Arabs? They just disappear. And everything, they start concentrating only on the people who were with Sayyidina Dawood ﷺ. All the time speaks about Bani Israel, Bani Israel, Bani Israel, Bani Israel, Bani Israel, Bani Israel. Then Bani Israel were taken out taken away by the Romans in 135 CE at the time of Herodotus. and not Herodes, Hadrian, and that's it. And suddenly you feel as if the land was empty. Suddenly Umar ibn al-Khattab comes 500 years later to find that the people of that area were Arabs. Where the heck did they come from? That is the gap in the Israeli narration of this history of that area. That is the gap. The truth here is that they never left. They evolved. Taken from Darwin. They evolved with the history, with the time, and they remained Arabs. The same as they were at the time. So they remained from the beginning Arabs. They started as Arabs. They remained Arabs. They became followers as well of David. They became followers of the Persians. They became under the Roman rule. When the Romans drove the children of Israel out, they left the Arabs, the original people in that land, because at that time they were not monotheistics. They were at the same religion of the Romans, pagan. They were pagans. Then they converted to Christianity with the Roman conversion to Christianity as well, with the Byzantine time, and then they themselves converted to Islam. As easy as that. So your grandfathers and your ancestors were not actually dating back to the time of the Nakba, or the time of Umar ibn Khattab even, 1400 years ago. No, they date back to the first people who entered and lived in that country and in that land 4,500 years ago, or even 5,000 years ago. And our evidences on that are the inscriptions that can be found everywhere in Jerusalem, everywhere in Palestine, everywhere in Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, that can be read in our accents of today. And even the names that they have, has got relationship to our language of today. And one of the best examples that I give for this is the word Zion. Zion, Sohyun in Arabic, is an Arabic word. And it can be found in our Arabic of today. Even in the proper Fushiha Arab, Al-Arabiya Fusha as well. In Arabic, we say, رَكِبَ صَهْوَةَ الْجَوَادِ. He went on صَهْوَةَ الْجَوَادِ. Sahwa means something high. And that dates back to the time of the Canaanites, who called the mountain of Jerusalem, one of the highest mountains of Jerusalem, Sohyun. Why? Because in their accent, not language, in their accent, the word Sohyun meant at that time very high. So it's all Arabic, guys. So even the word Jerusalem is Arabic. Or Salim, that is the original word of that country, of that word. So hopefully now you understand how deep your roots are in that country and in that land. We have many inscriptions that proves that you have the right since 5,000 years old. If anybody comes and say that the history starts 3,000 years ago, you have to come and say, excuse me, no, it starts 5,000 years ago. So it's 2,000 years. It's not like a trip. 2,000 years from the time of Jesus until our time, a lot of things happened. So you can't just wipe all of them and say, well, I'll start from now. Fresh start. Like in the movie, The Day After Tomorrow. Okay? Oh no, 2012 movie. It starts with the year 000 something. No, you can't do this. Hopefully that this will be helpful for you, inshallah, in your debates and your understanding of the history of Jerusalem and your very ancient history in that city and in that land, inshallah. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm so sorry for